Hi, it's Keith from the Evangelical Free Church Stony Stratford, and we're continuing our series of short talks in Luke's Gospel. And today we look at Luke 23, verses 35 to 43. Jesus has been crucified. He has been crucified alongside thieves. As it said in Isaiah 53, verse 12, he has been numbered among the transgressors. But Luke does the unexpected here. Rather than go into the detail of the pain and the inhumanity of crucifixion, it was a horrible way to die, he does something else. He doesn't focus on the physical suffering. Some years ago, when I was at my first church, I was knocking on doors and chatting to people. It was quite well known in the area, so people weren't surprised when I turned up. And I spoke to one young lady. I introduced myself and spoke for about 30 seconds, and she said, "I haven't understood a word you're saying." I was thinking, oh my word, I must be the worst evangelist around. And then she said, "But I did see The Passion of the Christ. It had just come out of the cinema at that time, and it made me cry." I said, "Did you understand why it happened?" She said, "No, not really." I said, "Well, that's the thing with the film. It tells you what happened, but let me now tell you why." Now, this is what Luke wants to do here. He wants to focus on what is happening and why it's happening. Firstly, Jesus is humbled. Verse 35, people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him, and they said, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Christ of God, the chosen one." The soldiers also came up and mocked him and offered him wine vinegar and said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." Then Pilate's written this notice above him. Verse 38, there was written a notice above him which read, "This is the King of the Jews." Why did Pilate do that? Well, I think he was pretty fed up. I think he felt a bit pushed around and manipulated by the Jewish leaders, and we know that in John's Gospel, they actually go to him and say, "Don't write, you shouldn't have written he was the King of the Jews. Write, this man said he was King of the Jews." And Pilate flippantly says back to them, "What I have written, I have written." In a sense, he gets the last word in there. But imagine that, a man hanging on a cross. It seems like a bad joke, doesn't it, to have that written above him. And we notice also, don't we, that the criminals have two very different reactions to him. Verse 39, one of the criminals who hung there held insults at him. "Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal does something quite remarkable here. Verse 40, but the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve, but this man has done nothing." And then he says something quite remarkable. Verse 42, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." What do we see here? Well, it shows us something, doesn't it? This man, he'd made a bad turn in life and gone down the wrong road, yes, but he realised that. And there was a fear of God in him, wasn't there? Secondly, he realised he was a sinner. He was getting what he deserved. And then lastly, he realised Jesus should receive praise. What did he know? Maybe he'd heard Jesus at one time. Maybe he'd heard rumours about him. Maybe he heard bits of his teaching. We really don't know. But here's the result. Verse 43, Jesus answered him, "I tell you the truth. Today you will be with me in paradise." Isn't that fantastic? This man had nothing, no visible sign of a spiritual life. And yet he confesses his sin. He gives Jesus the rightful place, and he's forgiven. Quite remarkable. The first bishop of Liverpool, boy, I wish we had bishops like this today, J.C. Ryle, said of the penitent thief, he wasn't baptized, he never joined a church, he never received communion, and yet he was forgiven. What a wonderful thing. And here's the thing, isn't it? It's not about what we do. It's about what God has done. In Ephesians 2, verses 8 and 9, it says, by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not of yourselves, it's a gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. God extends grace to us. We don't deserve it, but he gives it. And the thing is this, why isn't it by works? Because all the good works we could possibly muster up would never be enough to put us right with God. Our sin, the things we've done in the past, the things that we do each day, would still remain. And that brings us really, doesn't it, to why did Jesus die? Well, quite simply this. This is the last part of Isaiah 53, verse 12. For he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. You see, he has dealt with my sin, with your sin, if we will just turn and ask for forgiveness. Thank you for listening.